The Oklahoma City Thunder were robbed of a Christmas Day game as Shams announced the NBA schedule for Christmas games this year. And the Oklahoma City Thunder, even though being the Western Conference 1 seed, being one of the youngest and most exciting teams in the NBA, they were left off from a Christmas Day game, and it had the NBA world just confused. Twitter was going crazy. I know a bunch of Thunder fans were going crazy, rioting, wondering how we were left off. I know fans of other teams that are left off were also defending the Thunder. I saw people from the Lakers, Spurs, Knicks, Celtics as well defending, hey, the Thunder should have had a game at least against someone in this schedule. And so it just has everyone kind of dumbfounded how the league can leave off a team that has a ton of potential, a ton of talent on their team, and is one of the favorites to win the NBA championship here in 2025. It just doesn't make sense how you can leave them off from a Christmas Day game. We're going to break it down here, go over an article that kind of talks about that a little bit, why the Thunder should be having a Christmas Day game, and also who I think they should have replaced here for a game. But before we get all that, though, I want to take a moment and recognize that we are at 1,727 subscribers. Like I've mentioned before, 2,000 subscriber goal before the start of preseason games here in about month and 3 weeks or so when those games start. I know we can hit that goal, so if you guys enjoy the content and find yourself coming back here on a regular basis, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and get into the video and talk about the NBA Christmas games and, the fact that the Thunder were left off. All right, and it's just, just saying that myself, I'm still dumbfounded when I find that the Thunder were left off. When you look at some of the teams, and here are some of the teams. Here are the 5 games that we have. All right, you have Spurs Knicks, which I get the hype for the Spurs because of Wembanyama. That's it though. The Knicks, they're a good team and they have good players. I feel like we could have played in the Spurs spot there. We'll talk about who all I think we would have replaced and what would have been the best replacement later. So I'm not going to get into that too deep quite yet. Timberwolves, Mavericks, I get it. Timberwolves are favorite to make it to the finals. Mavericks, they had a good run. They just made the NBA finals as well. I get both of those teams. 76ers at Celtics, I get both of those teams playing. I don't get them playing against each other. That's what I don't get. I don't get those teams playing each other. I feel like Celtics Knicks would have been a better matchup, or 76ers Knicks. One of those two teams should have played the Knicks, and then you figure out who that last team would be, play the Sixers or Celtics between those two. Lakers Warriors, that it's just being dragged on. I don't think we need that game anymore. I don't think it needs to be a highlighted game. I get it. LeBron versus Stephen Curry. Oh my gosh, 2 teams that will make the play-in. Maybe one of those teams doesn't even make the plan. All right, neither one of those teams I see having much success in the next season. They could be a 500 team for sure. They could win 41 games. There's no telling if they make the playoffs, though. One of them might, the other team probably won't. All right, just being honest. So I don't get why that is a highlighted Christmas Day game. I feel like the rivalry between LeBron James and Stephen Curry is just being drug out too much. I feel like that's the case. And then Nuggets, Suns, I get Nuggets, and then Suns as well. We have guys like Kevin Durant, marketability, and this is what it's all about. Marketability. Oh, who would do better for, United States viewership? But the NBA is such a international game at this point where you need your international stars playing. That's why they have the Nuggets playing. That's why they have the Mavericks playing for Luka. That's why they have the Spurs playing for Wembanyama. If you're trying to go international, why not look to the team that has the best basketball player for Team Canada, who is reaching a global stage right now and was one of the best players at the Paris Olympics this year? Why not go that route? If that's the case, if you're really trying to say we're also trying to go international, why were the Bucks left off? That's my point. The NBA just doesn't revolve around the United States. It's an international game. It gets international attention. So you can't just look at all these teams that have United States stars. Like the Celtics, all right? They have stars on their team. A lot of them aren't from outside the United States. You have Kristaps Porzingis, but he won't even be playing. Okay, that's just my point of all this when you're looking at it. All these teams, sure, they might have United States stars, but not necessarily international stars. That's where I'm kind of stuck at it. And Rylan Stiles, had an article about it that we're going to break down here a little bit, talking about his opinions and, breaking down the slate a little bit more. Oklahoma City Thunder were bumped off the slate in the favor of 7 Western Conference squads. A laughable omission by the league office without much excuse for it. With the OKC Thunder bolstering a back-to-back top 5 finisher for the MVP award in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a pair of rising stars in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, along with a complete rotation of high-quality players and the coach of the year pacing the sidelines, this decision is shocking to say the least. It isn't as though the Thunder lacked drama or intrigue. The Thunder could have easily slotted into the annual 11 a.m. Central Time slot against the New York Knicks after stealing away big man Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency. I agree with that as well. Going into more of the article here, last piece of information we have. A rematch of last season's competitive second-round series would have kept Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in this coveted slot. The top 3 teams in last year's Western Conference standings all hail from the same division, making a Thunder matchup against either Minnesota or Denver appealing. Not to mention the NBA's new favorite rivalry, putting Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama against one another, even enlivened of the preseason slate the last 2 seasons. No matter if you prefer an old school versus new school angle of Warriors Thunder, a LeBron clash against the new kids on the block, Paul George homecoming, or a tilt between the 2 NBA final favorites, there was room for the OKC Thunder on the Christmas Day slate. And there was. There was plenty of room to put them. That's where I get confused about it. You put other teams in front of them that I feel like the Thunder would have been better suited for. Nuggets Suns, I don't really get, unless you're trying to push this Russ versus KD narrative again, which I feel like is also outdated and long gone since the Oklahoma City Thunder days for both of them. That's done now, all right? They no longer have this kind of rivalry against each other. LeBron, Steph, if this was their final go-around, I would get putting them in the Christmas Day schedule. It's not, though. They at least have one more year after this season. Okay, that's where I'm getting confused about this. You could put us against the Celtics. I feel like that'd be a fun matchup to watch, as I feel like that's what everyone thinks the finals matchup is going to be, Thunder-Celtics. That could be a fun matchup to watch beforehand, but I feel like you're better off with the Thunder playing the Celtics early in the season, and then, once again, late in the season, try to, build up that hype in the early stages, and then once everything's dying down before the playoffs, build up the hype of like, hey, this is what the finals is going to look like. You better pay attention because these are going to be exciting games. So I don't really agree with the Christmas slot there. Going against the Lakers, new kids on the block versus LeBron, I don't really, get that either. And then if you want to start the Warriors drama again, I can get that. It's been awfully quiet, though, the past few years because that time and age has gone. It's time to put in new rivalries and put in new matchups against each other. That's why I think we would have been great playing against the Spurs on Christmas Day. Chet versus Wemby, 2 teams that are young and are probably going to dominate the Western Conference for the next 5 years. I like that matchup. You could have done Denver as well and Minnesota. Minnesota, I feel like, would have been the best matchup for us going against them. Going against Minnesota, Anthony Edwards versus Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You can say, the aura, the, personalities coming from all these guys, the emotion on the court. I feel like that would have made for a great game. I feel like it would have made for a great game. And yes, you don't have to play it in Oklahoma City. You don't have to play it there. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. You could also put us against the Knicks as well. Do it Isaiah Hartenstein coming back, which isn't really a huge name, but that's also a potential finals matchup. The Knicks, I believe, are right behind the Celtics for Eastern Conference favorites. So it's one of those things where you had all these matchups that make sense for the Thunder to be in that slot instead of other teams. I get the Knicks. You're always going to have the Knicks on Christmas Day. I feel like that's just a tradition that they have now. I get that, and so why not go ahead and put the Thunder there? Spurs versus Knicks just feels so out of place to me. It just doesn't really make sense. I feel like Thunder versus Knicks would make a little bit more sense considering we took Isaiah Hartenstein away from them, and then we're also 2 favorites to reach the finals. I feel like that just makes more sense than the Spurs in that slot. And I keep looking back at the teams here. I keep looking back at them. I feel like Thunder Knicks would have been great. I feel like Thunder Spurs would have been phenomenal. I feel like even Thunder Mavericks would have been great as well. I feel like Thunder Mavericks, the more I look at this, Thunder against Mavericks, this is a new rivalry that we saw in the playoffs start to take off, and it's still going on. The fan bases don't like each other at all. They don't. It's evident when you're going on social media that the Thunder and Maverick fan bases hate each other right now. You can tell. There is blood in the water between these 2 organizations right now. That would have been a great Christmas Day game. It would have been. I feel like that's what it should have been. And then if you want to have the Timberwolves in there, considering how young they are, do Timberwolves versus Spurs. It's the fact that you're looking at this. There's 7 Western Conference teams. I get it. Western Conference is really stacked right now. Usually you want to do 4 of those games are conferences, against each other. Like Thunder versus Mavericks would have been great. And then you do, if you want to keep one of those Western Conference matchups there, Lakers Warriors would put up numbers for viewership if you're truly going after that. And then for the Eastern Conference, I get Knicks versus Celtics. I 100% get that one. And then do 76ers Bucks. I feel like that one would make sense too. 2 teams that are kind of, being a little bit overlooked by the Celtics and Knicks right now. I feel like that would have been a great move. And then that last game, if you want your young guys going against each other, why not do Spurs against another Eastern Conference team? Why not do that? That would make sense to me. Spurs Heat or something along those lines. I don't know. That would have made so much more sense to me than Spurs and Knicks. Nuggets Suns. Those games make so much more sense to me than what they put out there. That's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys personally think, who the Thunder should have been in there to replace for Christmas Day games and who they should have played. Let me know that down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.